right, guys. Tonight I have back on AbNormie. Say hi, AbNormie.
Hi guys.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. It was my pleasure. It's fun.
It has been a month since you last came on. Did you know that?
No, I don't track time real well, but a whole month. Holy crow.
Neither do I, but the reason I know this is because it was August 2nd when we were on Discord talking before we went live the last time.
Nice.
We're going to talk about some farm animals first. What do you know about farming? Do you know anything about farming?
Oh man, I know plenty about farming. I grew up on a farm. I know it's a lot of work. Holy crow. And most of the things that you hear about on farms, yeah, they're probably not true.
Well, like, alien abductions and cows being turned inside out. Not the norm.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that my whole entire childhood. I never saw that.
So none of your neighbors ever had that problem with cows and being turned inside out or alien abductions that you know of?
No, not really. I think our biggest worry was probably coyotes and, um, you know, keeping all the animals in their proper pens. They like to escape a lot.
So what about chupacabra? Did chupacabra steal your sheep?
No, there was a sheep that we only had one sheep, but we wished that it would get stolen, and that never happened.
It's always the one thing you want stolen. Like my daughter is riding this tiny little extremely heavy bike right now, and I've been leaving it out
Yeah.
for anyone to take, but nobody's taken it.
Right. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I don't want that.
She's too big for it. It's very heavy for being such a small bike. It's got like a duct tape seat because it's so old, but she loves it.
Well, there you go.
I
Maybe
just
that's why it stays around.
I might end up in the garbage can. But anyway, back to farm animals instead of kids biking through town. We're going to talk mostly about chickens. I will bring up one other uh, farm animal, but real quick, we went to the CDC, you and I, and we found an article that says, titled "Keeping Backyard Chickens and Other Poultry," and of course, they're going to give us like good information about how to be self-sufficient, right? I mean, it's the CDC. I'm sure they care about us. Oh, no, the first thing it says is
Absolutely.
there are many ways you can get salmonella from poultry. Now, of course, they're going to give you some things to do, but if you look up salmonella on the CDC, you find a lot of stuff about the problem of it and how it's, reformatting and getting worse, especially if you have your own chickens. And you've seen that, I think, haven't you, with the CDC and the salmonella discussion?
Yeah. And the other thing is that it's like, all right, well, uh, if you wash your hands, you don't put your hands in your mouth and all that good stuff, you can it's all kind of common sense stuff, but then they want to scare the crap out of you with it.
Well, and they're saying there's all these salmonella outbreaks and all these chicken problems, and now it's getting worse. And I think they really don't. I mean, U.S. outbreaks related to poultry, that's kind of a thing that you'll see. And the CDC, of course, is not really a good place to go for real knowledge, in my opinion.
No, I might be a good one for, some background or something like that, but I would make sure I research other stuff too.
So here's the article you probably had seen. It says outbreaks of salmonella infections linked to backyard poultry, and this is dated July
Yeah.
19th, 2019.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
So
So they're definitely pushing the chicken agenda somehow. It's like the chicken apocalypse.
don't have chickens, basically, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And here's another one from the CDC talking about farm animal contact in general as a risk factor for the transmission of bovine associated salmonella subtypes, and bovine is going to be like your cows and your steers.
Yeah.
So yet another animal that's going to give you salmonella just because you've touched them.
Well, that's the thing is like when you go to your county fairs and stuff like that, and they have all the animals, and they all of a sudden a few years back they just all of a sudden sprung up with these hand washing stations with the antimicrobial soap and all that good stuff.
Which
It's like,
could be anything but.
yeah. Well, not only that, but you're also when you use those antimicrobial soaps and stuff like that, you're killing the good bacteria that's on your skins.
Well,
The good stuff that
God
yeah.
created us at a time where we didn't have all that junk, right? And people, yes, there was death, there was disease. I'm not denying that. However, since I believe in God and I believe I was created by God, I don't think He created me to be totally incapable of handling animals, because that is what humans have been doing for centuries upon centuries.
Yeah, we've been doing it forever.
And you growing up, I mean, you washed your hands, you use soap and stuff like that. You didn't grow up probably totally dirty, but I know people who do grow up pretty filthy and they don't ever have diseases that they die from. It almost seems like they're less likely to have a disease, and the people that are super clean are more likely to get a disease that will cause them more problems than the person who's kind of filthy.
Yeah, that's kind of like what you see with these kids that don't go outside, and then all of a sudden they go outside and they start catching everything under the sun. It's just, I think it's a matter of being exposed to it, and then you're letting your body do what it does naturally, and that's build antibodies for that stuff. But you might get it once, but then now all of a sudden you've been. It's kind of like what vaccines are supposedly based on, but then I don't know what they put in that crap either. So.
Well, speaking to vaccines specifically, I recently watched some information from a guy who is a physician, and they stripped him of his license as a physician because he's anti-vaccine, because he actually researched it as a physician would, because a woman who came in and said there was nothing wrong with my child, and then he got vaccines, and now he's on the autism spectrum. Well, they didn't know it was autism at first, but he had all these symptoms. Well, it turns out that we had been eradicating measles on our own just by having had it, just by having it run through people. It was becoming much less severe. It was becoming a situation like, if you go back and you look at the Brady Bunch, they had an episode where everybody in the house got it, nobody died, and they checked them off just like you would of the chicken pox when we were younger. And what that's done now
Yeah.
is it's created this measles that's kind of super measles like we do with everything else, because of our vaccinations, because we've done it this way, and instead of having the actual herd immunity that we did have by just having measles go through generations and become less and less severe, it's now becoming more severe again, where the vaccines aren't even lasting long enough. It turns out you would actually need a booster in some cases monthly.
Wow. Yeah, just because of the what do they call that? Like the morphosis of the bacteria itself. It's kind of like it's building its own immunity to it.
Right. So at one point, it got less and less severe because we just kept getting it, and as we got more immune to the actual disease. So there was this herd immunity, and it created less of a severe measles if you did get it, because everybody was becoming immune to the actual disease. But what they've created with these, basically, they took something that was working and decided to try to fix it anyway, but it was already working. And it wasn't broken, didn't need fixing. But yes, now that's created this measles that's becoming more severe again because our immunity isn't to the actual original disease. And now it's becoming back to what it was, where if we did have an outbreak, there could be more deaths than if it was just the regular measles that we knew at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's like a different strand.
I don't have a lot of detail on that because I didn't pull that up, but we were talking about it, so I'll bring it up if anybody wants to know more about it. I'll get that for them. But Del Bigtree had interviewed this physician a few times, and so Del Bigtree has a YouTube, and he goes big time into. Del Bigtree is the one who directed and maybe even like was behind the full creation of the movie Vaxxed, Vaxxed, which was a big blow off the lid of the truth of vaccines. So if you haven't seen that, going back to chickens, it turns out that you probably don't want to have chickens or your own farm, right? Let's get you back to safety of the city, because your rooster might peck you in the leg to death, as this article explains. This poor lady, who I believe this is completely fake news, but I'll get your opinion after I talk on this for just a second first, and then I'll give my opinion. But basically, supposedly, this 76-year-old woman was collecting eggs when her chicken aggressively attacked her lower left leg, and she collapsed. I mean, they make it sound immediate. Well, when they did an autopsy, they found 2 small lacerations, including one on a varicose vein. And so they decided she died because she bled to death. She had a severe blood loss because of the rooster aggressively pecking her. I don't know how they knew it was the rooster for sure. And it was considered rare, of course, and it demonstrates that even relatively small domestic animals may be able to inflict lethal injuries in individuals if there are specific vascular vulnerabilities present. What say you, AbNormie?
Oh man, I'm scared to death now. Rabbits are going to start attacking us. Yeah, it doesn't sound like that sound like that's something that I would worry about. But you know what? Roosters can be pretty aggressive. We had one when I was a kid that was just psycho. I don't think this chicken could have killed anybody. Although, come to find out, he was I think a silkie, which is a kind of a Chinese fighting rooster. When he died, he had like 2.5 inch long what they call the talons or the horns.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that's what they do when they fight. They kind of poke each other with the back of their legs.
Mm-hmm.
So when we lived out there on the farm, I had a rooster. His name was Henry, a big Rhode Island big red rooster. And a coyote got him, so we were without a rooster. And Mom prayed, but she prayed for a new rooster for us because we lived off the chickens, because we call them pullets. When they get up to a certain size, then we have this great big fun thing of plucking chickens and putting them in the freezer. So this car come down our dirt road one day, and in this laundry basket they had this chicken, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys want a chicken?" And we're like, "Yeah, we need a rooster. Oh my gosh, this is a godsend, right?" So it was pretty cool that her prayers were answered, and we got this chicken. But so we do what we do with all the other chickens. We threw it out in the yard, out in the chicken pen, and let him walk around there. But we noticed that he walked kind of funny because he had really soft feet. So what they had done is they had raised this chicken in the house. So it was like a house chicken. So it had soft feet, and it wasn't used to living outside at all. And we went to the movies one night and came back, and the chicken was in the house. He was trying to get in the house. He was always trying to get in the house. We had for some friends over in there sitting on the couch one night, and he's jumping up on the back window. It's dark outside. He'd jump up and hit the back window behind him on the couch and scared the crap out of everybody. So I don't even know. So it's just weird chicken, right? It's like, all right. So we just gather him up and put him back in the pen, clip one of his wings, cut the feathers on one of his wings so he couldn't fly over the top of the coop. Well, one morning I went out to feed, and this chicken attacked me. Full on just attacked me. So I come running in the house. I don't think I was very old. I was probably about 10. So it was pretty traumatic. This chicken comes running out and just attacks me. I'm like, what in the heck? And I mean, it hurt. He was pecking and scratching and all this crazy stuff. And so I come running in the house, and then my stepdad gets up because I woke him up with all the commotion, and he went outside, and the chicken attacked him. Well, that was probably a bad idea because this guy had a bad attitude anyway. So he hit this bird with a 2x4 and knocked it about 20 feet across the yard. Well, the doggone thing came right back. Like, it never even phased him, never stopped him. So the T-Rex part, I think, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So people would come up. We had a horse furrier. He'd come. We had like 7 horses. So this furrier would come up, and he told his helper, he's like, okay, so these guys got dogs. They got like 4 or 5 dogs. But you don't got to worry about the dogs. They'll love you to death. You got to watch out for this damn rooster. And the guy's like, what? Yeah, this rooster. You just got to watch out for this rooster. So when the dude opened the door and put his leg out, that rooster came and got him. I don't know how this chicken would get out of the coop, but it would constantly get out of the coop and try and it just attack anybody it could. One day it had an accident, and I don't know what happened to it. So there's my killer chicken story.
Well, I'm glad you told the story because, one, you talked about your mom praying for that. That was part of your livelihood and your survival, were the chickens.
Right, yeah.
So it makes perfect. So she's a woman of faith who cared enough for her family and trusted God, and then her wish came true. The only thing I'd say is be more specific next time on the prayer, so you don't get a crazy rooster. But you never know.
If you're going to pray for chickens, don't pray for... Yeah, if you're going to pray for chickens, make sure you pray for one that's not a psycho, because this chicken was psycho.
We haven't mentioned to our audience yet the article that we've already looked at about chickens being related to dinosaurs, but I'm really, because you mentioned your fear of them, kind of interestingly reminded me of the movie The Good Dinosaur, where the little dinosaur Arlo is terrified of having to go out and feed the chickens. And later we're going to talk about supposedly chickens are related to dinosaurs. But I was just going to bring that up. I found that kind of funny that in that movie he's terrified of having to feed the chickens, and there's one in particular that comes after him all the time. So I'm going to speak on this. Yeah, chases him and scares him away. On this varicose vein lady, of course they've got to get some Mayo Clinic, expert. And it says any superficial vein may become varicose, which means twisted and enlarged, and they're most commonly found in the legs. Well, here's why. They're most commonly found, and they just said this, cosmetic concern. They're most commonly found in the legs. They are cosmetic, and they're veins. The reason they become twisted and enlarged in the legs is because you have valves that push your blood back to the heart. Your blood doesn't pump through veins at all. It only pumps through your arteries. And once it comes out and embedded in all that, gone out all to the capillaries of the arteries, out into from the biggest arteries down to the tiniest little capillaries, it comes back through the veins. It does not pump, and so you have valves that keep the blood moving through the veins. Well, because of the fact that we have gravity, our legs have a bigger struggle to valvularly get that blood back up to the heart. And so the valves can stop working and functioning well, especially as we get older, they will. And some people seem to be more prone to it than others. It's not indicative of blood pressure problems or other blood complications. One is not directly related to another. People just get varicose veins naturally because the valves just don't work. We have millions of veins in our bodies, and the blood, if it can't get through that vein, it will go find another way. The reason they get big and twisted is because it's backed up with blood, but it's not continually pumping blood, and it's superficial. It's superficial, and it's not pumping blood. The blood finds another direction to go, so they can remove those and tie them off completely if it becomes a painful, because it can be painful. So for this woman to bleed to death, I'm calling BS. I'm calling BS. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think a chicken has enough force to penetrate deep enough to hit a major vein or artery. I mean, that'd be like a 1 in a billion chance.
Right.
I don't know.
There are deep veins that would bleed out profusely, because just like you have huge arteries, you have huge veins. So like you have the what's the one in your neck? You have the carotid artery, but what's the jugular? Everybody talks about going for the jugular because that's the first one from your heart. That is a huge vein. So whether you hit the carotid or the jugular, you're going to kill you're going to bleed out probably very easily. And so, but in your legs, there's no such thing as a deep varicose, because if it's a deep vein, they call it a thrombosis, and then that can be dangerous. That could kill a person because that can be a clot that goes. Not just if it clots up in those deep veins, it can go to the heart, the brain, or the lungs, cause a heart attack, a stroke, or what's called a pulmonary embolism. What we're seeing here is a superficial vein that doesn't connect to those bigger veins, and the fact that she supposedly bled out from it, it's got to be another problem on top of it. Like you had said, what about the hemolytic? And I said even then I'd be surprised, but yeah, it'd have to be tied to another blood disorder of some kind for them to have that, to die from vitamin. But this woman supposedly died from death from chicken.
Maybe she had a heart attack.
She probably had something else that happened, but for whatever reason, they're being very uncreative, and they're saying it's from a varicose vein, whatever. And this is your Fox News, guys. And if you think Fox News is somebody to trust, I'd tell you probably not. Probably not. I've not. They've been compromised for a very long time. So anyway. Yeah,
all media has for a while now.
If I look up varicose vein deaths, the only thing that comes up is that article about the chicken killing that woman. So, okay.
Maybe they're just starting like a new archive. Let's just plant this seed right here.
Well, and who knows what's behind it. It's pretty odd. And I'm looking up hospitalization statistics of varicose veins. It's like none of them are from a death or anything like that. Yeah, I'll have to look into that another time. All right, so on to the next one, because we're on a death by chicken run here. Get it? Chicken run? This man was also killed by his chicken by being stabbed in the leg. Now, this man is a Mexican, but I'm sure he's totally documented and has I'm sure he's a illegal Mexican, but he's doing cockfighting in California. And apparently, well, he's not. He was a spectator. And although he was a spectator, he himself had been fined for owning and training animals, right? So what do you know about the cockfighting? You said like that's how they stab each other in a cockfight or whatever. This one, they actually tied on a knife to the animal. Where do they tie that knife onto?
So on those spurs, they put those blades on those spurs that I don't know how they attach them. I've never seen it happen, but they have like little metal razor blades that slide over that spur and latch to the chicken leg somehow. Ugh. Maybe they Velcro, super glue them. I don't know.
And this kind of sounds like a joke when she titles it "Knife Wielding Cock Shock." That's the title.
Oh my god, the first paragraph is hilarious.
So, yeah, it says that he died after being stabbed in the leg, and according to a member of the local sheriff's department, he and other men fled when the police arrived. And the police said, I've never seen this type of incident, because it's obviously just so horrific. But he had also been stabbed in the calf. Now, here's the thing is, his is the right calf. The other lady was her left lower leg.
Oh, maybe they had to have a pair.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good
pair of
thought.
limbs.
They needed some limbs. And she was in Australia, though, so they were flying her leg a lot further if they was coming to where he is. But yeah, he was declared dead in the hospital 2 hours later. So that one could have gotten a deep vein, I suppose. And he didn't seek any treatment for it.
Those blades that they put on those chickens are sharp. It's pretty brutal. I have not witnessed or watched any of it, but from what I understand, it's pretty brutal.
This is funny. I think this is probably satire, but it makes you wonder. Like I have to look this up because it's kind of an odd satire. But this is, and it's from 2011. However, it says at the very end, a lesson for all, we can surely agree, who enjoy participating or attending events in which animals are forced to maim and kill each other for their owner's profit. All further puns, moral outrage, flagrant instances of not reading the article properly and rushing straight to complain, requests for new keyboards, etc., to use the usual address. So I'm not sure what kind of website this is, but it talks.
Probably that time.
It obviously is interested in chickens and roosters. It's all about chickens and roosters. So it might not be satire. It might just be somebody, people who have an vested interest in not harming chickens, maybe not. But they titled this one "Man Killed by Own Cock." So I don't know. It's
that's gonna be satire.
This is another story this is another story of a man who pushed his metal enhanced cock a bit too far. So this is it's funny anyway, because we were trying to have fun with this. This is the point, is it's funny how much chicken death there is. There's the chickens are after us, and don't have chickens. And we also think it's part of it keeping us in this, right, keeping us in this ourselves in the city and not being self-sustainable. I think that there's a lot to that.
The British ones, happy hens need to be rehomed, so there's like 5,000 chickens that they need a new home or they get slaughtered. And then maybe that's why all the chickens are attacking. It's like some kind of protest. So like, hey, save our friends.
Yes.
Jerks.
It's a chicken. What was the word you said?
Protest.
Revolt.
Chicken apocalypse.
They're revolting.
Oh, revolt. Yeah.
Yeah, the chicken apocalypse. Although this guy looks pretty happy. He doesn't seem too scared.
It doesn't look like Colonel Sanders. Or what's the latest thing that's been going on? There's some kind of argument between Chick-fil-A and another outfit
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
I mean, do you fillet a fish or do you fillet a fish?
I fillet. Actually, I don't fillet, so I just eat them.
But does a person fillet a fish or fillet a fish?
I can't remember the name of the dang place.
It's Chick-fil-A.
So, Chick-fil-A and another outfit are having an argument between their chicken sandwiches.
Okay.
So I've seen an article where some people somewhere in, I think, Texas or something, stormed this. Gosh, I wish it were Popeyes, maybe.
Maybe I should look up Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes or something.
Yeah, they stormed this place with guns trying to get in there because they ran out of this sandwich. Oh, it's getting ridiculous out there. So maybe that's what the chickens are protesting.
Ridiculous.
Stop eating foods.
That could be. Because they're also, it's a man problem too. Man killed by his own cock. Obviously, that's probably a man-hating. Honestly, that one, the register that with the chicken, the man killed by his own cock, they probably just hate men. Here's what's funny about this article, though. It says a closing farm, which has plunged into debt, needs to find a new home for 5,000 chickens or they will be slaughtered. Well, what the heck do you think the farm was going to do with them?
And what do you do with 5,000 chickens?
Yeah, they were just going to lay eggs for the rest of their lives. They were never going to eat any of them.
Maybe that was the retirement home for the chicken run.
Oh
wait, no. Play animation, never mind.
In real life, though.
Yeah, it's a real life chicken run.
Well, I'm really sorry for those chickens that they might be slaughtered and eaten, because you know what? Don't eat chickens, guys. Don't eat meat. Because, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but iron fights demonic activity. So that's really another reason they don't want you to have meat.
Yeah, that iron blocks it somehow. I'm not sure how it works. I haven't really dug into it, but yeah,
It makes sense to me because when I did my vampires and aliens and werewolves one, that actually you got me to do. When I did that, I got into the bloodlines and the Rh negative and the copper blood, and so when at the time I wasn't thinking anything of it, but now it makes perfect sense because if they're trying to keep the Rh negative copper bloodline alive for the Antichrist, that makes perfect sense. They don't want to keep the iron rich bloodline going because the iron is the problem. They need the copper blood, the serpent seed.
Right. I should look into the serpent seed. I've heard about it a couple of times now, but I haven't done anything with it.
Well, I should look into it more because I think it ties exactly to what I have said about the garden and that the first fall, maybe it wasn't Satan himself, or it could have been a fallen angel because Satan took a third of them. A third of the angels fell with Satan. Regardless, I don't have all the details, right? Because I wasn't there, and the Bible doesn't say specifically. But the serpent seed is basically that it wasn't a fruit, it was a sexual encounter that created that bloodline. Just like there's a bloodline for Jesus that we can trace through the Bible, there's a bloodline for the Antichrist.
Right. I could see that.
And by the way, there are certain, I forgot to mention this, and then I'm going to go to the next article, which of course again is Fox News, but I forgot to mention that there are other kinds of varices that will bleed to death, but they're called esophageal varices, and you'll find those only in liver failure patients or people with liver failure. And there are these big, huge backed up veins that happen in the throat, and those can cause somebody to bleed to death. However, the chicken wasn't nicking her esophageal varices. So moving on to the next one, chickens peck fox to death because guess what, guys? Chickens are dinosaurs. After sneaking into a chicken coop at a farm school in Brittany, in northwestern France, a young fox became trapped with 3,000 hens as the automatic hatch door closed behind it. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it matters that chickens are related to dinosaurs or not, because they're not. We'll talk about that. But don't you think if a predator got into a chicken coop and there was enough of them to do something about it, they would just do something about it to try to fight back? I think any prey would do that were it able to. 3,000 hens, one fox. So it says chickens, like all birds, are descended from dinosaurs, so it comes as no surprise that they channeled their inner Tyrannosaurus Rex and attacked the fox. So I say they saw a predator and they realized that there was 3,000 of them and one of him, and they defended themselves. But Fox News wants you to think that dinosaurs are real, and oh, by the way, chickens descended from them somehow differently from anything else.
Yeah. You know what? Chickens, they're not very bright to begin with, so I'm having a hard time with the mob mentality on that one.
Okay, but any kind of prey doesn't have to be bright to defend its own life, right?
No, that's the fight or flight thing.
Right.
So maybe I guess if it got overwhelmed, it'd be like dropping a scorpion in an anthill. It would eventually get wiped out.
And you yourself said there are aggressive roosters. So it's possible.
Oh,
It says 3,000 hens, but it's possible that if there's aggressive roosters, it's possible there could be mildly aggressive hens. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying they're aggressive hens, but I'm saying like you said, fight or flight, any kind of prey with concerns of an attack on predator, they're smart enough to know there's a lot of them. And like you said, dropping a scorpion in an anthill. So great point, right?
Well, they probably just defended themselves and they're like, hey, yeah, you're not supposed to be here. I wonder when the fox got in the hen house at that point.
Basically, what I don't like about this being, this Fox News article is that they're saying that, of course, that chickens are related to dinosaurs, and they're pushing the evolution theory, which I don't buy.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting that one either. I'm kind of having a hard time seeing how Tyrannosaurus Rex, this big old lizard, shrank down to a dumb chicken.
If there were dinosaurs, were they created just like possibly minotaurs or mermaids or unicorns or Pegasus may have been created in the days of Noah and Babylon?
Right. And that's when they got wiped out in the flood because they missed the boat.
And they were supposed to.
I believe so.
Interestingly enough, Fox News wants you to believe that they come from the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And I'll tell you one thing. Another difficult I realize is this is not something my kids will hear at school, that they're going to be taught that dinosaurs are real, that the earth is round, and it may be. I'm not implying that it's not, but they're going to be taught things we don't know for sure. that the universe is what scientists say it is. In fact, I'm going to tell you this. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday who she shares a lot of my opinions. It was hilariously cute because she was very upset because her and her husband got in a fight. And now they don't get into this like I do and like you do. They don't get into, so when he said this, he didn't mean it like if I had said it to you or you said it to me. But I guess like in a fighty color,
Right.
he said, you're acting like, he's like, you're being Hillary Clinton. And she was like, oh.
Whoa.
So she said he was being a dictator. Anyway, they worked it out and everything's fine. But so she's sitting there and I'm saying, I don't think that the universe is what they've taught us. I'm not sure if I really believe there's a universe. I think we might be in an enclosed system. And she says, oh, but there's scientists and la la la. And I'm thinking, yeah, but science, they're paid off to tell. There was a time, right? And we know there was a time because look at Tesla's inventions and the things that have been stifled in the past that could have done many, many things for us that we don't get to have, and we still have to use fossil fuels, and they want to take those away from us. And there are technologies and sciences that we don't get to know about because they hit it under, and then they change history. They don't just pay off the guys now; they change the history books.
Well, that's kind of the thing. The victors get to write the history books. So, I mean, they're just kind of wiping it all away and teaching everybody don't question the narrative. And that's what the conspiracy. That's what we do. We question the narrative and then we push, hey, wait a minute, what if, or, and when you start asking questions, it really makes people nervous. It makes most people just want to be comfortable and live in their own little bubble and be like, oh, this is perfectly safe. All I have to do is make it through the next 80 years of my life and I don't upset the boat. But there's some of us that are hardwired to be like, what's this button do?
I guess President Trump does that as a joke. Congressman Gianforte told me that he'll bring people in and he has some button that he acts like is if he hits it, it could do something, and then he hits it and everybody's like ah, and it freaks him out and it's really funny.
This is the great big red button from Office Depot. Button.
It probably is, and of course it's nothing new. It's like people have been doing that joke, but I just think it's funny that President Trump would do that too. He has a sense of humor. He's a very intelligent man, and I think that would be hilarious if I came in and he did that. It would be funny. I don't think I would believe the red button would do anything though.
I'd be the guy going, I don't know, push it and see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Exactly. So speaking of the red button, and exactly what you said is what I told my children today. They asked about Alexa. Well, they didn't ask me about it. They thought I had Alexa, and I said no, I don't do Alexa, and here's why. So Alexa is recording what we're doing and reporting that information somehow to somewhere. Whether it's being used right now or not doesn't matter. It's the fact that it can be. And we know our phones are doing it to a degree as well, and our computers. I hope I'm right about what I said in my Who is Q video, though, that I hope that the keys have been taken by people who don't want to use that stuff against us. But regardless, it's being done, but Alexa just makes it worse, right? So our neighbor, she has Alexa, and I said, well, right, it's easier to find the songs you want to find, and it makes your life more comfortable, and that's what they want. They want us to be comfortable so that we freak out if our electricity goes out for 6 hours. They want us to call it our power because they want us to lose power when our electricity goes out. They want us to be scared and not know what to do. And
so you're powerless.
Right, you're powerless. You don't, well, then light some candles and your food might go bad if you don't have a generator or the ability to have backup electricity from solar panels. However, you can do that. You can get a generator or you can get solar panels or both. And the solar panels are not that expensive, like a couple $100. And they come with the batteries that you can fill the electricity with. And they're huge, like you could take them camping or you could just have them in case your electricity goes out. You can use those batteries for things like plugging in a phone or putting on light bulbs. It works for light bulbs. It might not work for your refrigerator, right? In that case, you can save up for a generator. But the thing is most people go nuts without their technology. And I'm the same. It bothers me. I've even told you, like at first when I go out hiking or away from any sort of technology, it does feel weird because I'm always around it. It does feel weird to have no service, but I get used to it pretty quickly, and pretty soon I'm not thinking about it anymore. It doesn't take long. But they want us to be totally unable to handle life without it.
Well, that's the thing. Like you and I grew up in a time where cell phones and all that stuff was just coming into being, where our kids coming up now, that's all they know. They don't even know what a LP is or a vinyl record or a cassette. What's a cassette?
Or a phone
or
cord.
reel to reel. Yeah, or a corded phone, it's stuck to the wall, and you had to have that 35-foot thing that strung all the way across the house so you can go
In
sit
your
in your room and
bedroom
talk.
and have a private
Yeah.
conversation. Or
But
rotary.
yeah, or oh man, rotary phones. I haven't thought about those in an age, but yeah, that's how we did it back then. And we didn't talk to each other all day long at work and all that stuff and all that. You got a phone call if it was an emergency, maybe. You know,
Right.
Otherwise, your boss had to come hunt you down and be like, "Hey, your kid got in trouble." So yeah, you don't get that instant gratification anymore. But our children now, on the other hand, that's all they know. This technology is always right in there in the palm of their hand. So it's like this complacency. But then when the power goes out or their Wi-Fi glitches or whatever, it's panic mode. They don't know what to do with themselves.
Right. And I noticed that about myself in the beginning of my waking up. And I realized, especially when I started getting into gold and silver and learning about prepping and being off the grid, I started to realize I wanted to learn these things too, and I wanted to get away from it. And so, speaking of, when we're speaking of your mom and her prayers, my children and I pray every night that we will one day live on a farm, that we'll be growing our own food. We say it the same, pretty much the same order and everything. My daughter, she has it down pat. That we'll have chickens,
Got memory.
yeah, well, we have having cows to milk, that we have horses to ride. And she and I, all of us, we pray that we would have our own garden to grow food, our own electricity, our own purified water generator, all that stuff, and to be able to hunt, to be able to be good hunters when we need to hunt for our food, and to be able to make our own clothing, and to be able to cook good meals without the need of any internet recipe, without the need of any Wi-Fi to be on the internet looking at anything or watching stuff. Maybe you could still have like DVDs and a television and some of those things. I don't think that they have control of us just because we have a TV, because we have God first. But we put the priorities in the right order, right? We put the priorities in the right order. And that is my prayer for us, because I want to teach my children something different. Like Pastor Lawson, I was just listening to him today, that they're coming for your children. In the way they're doing it, maybe they aren't picking them up and rounding them up in a truck or in a van or on a train, but they're doing it in a different, more subtle, more dangerous way now, because they're getting indoctrinated at school, they're getting indoctrinated worse at college, and then they become infidels against you and everything you brought them up for. And it's time to get them back to
Right.
square one, and ourselves too. We need to get ourselves back to square one and live off the earth that God gave us. Because what is it? What does the Lord say? That He provides for the animals, that they don't have to store anything, and it's the same for us.
Right. That's Matthew chapter 6. The birds don't worry about what they're going to eat, and the flowers don't worry about how they're clothed and stuff like that. And it's really true. It's funny because I grew up on this farm, and we were in the way back woods of California, Southern California. And yes, there are way back woods in Southern California. I like to call myself a hillbilly. Um, and you know what? We always grew everything that we had was stuff that we got off the farm. Very little of it did we have to go to the grocery store to get. Some of your essential stuff like butter and milk and stuff like that, we didn't, because, oh man, working a farm is it's a full-time job.
Right.
And when I finally was old enough to be like, I'm not doing this no more. This is insane. Because I've been working, well, I would say that I've been working full-time since I was 9 years old, just simply because of the farm. And when I finally was old enough to go get a job, I was like, oh, this is so much easier. All I have to do is go here, do what this guy tells me to do for 8 hours, and then I can go home. And I don't have to worry about feeding. I don't have to worry about cleaning up and all. And so I can see where complacency and then that cushy lifestyle has kind of shifted us away and has drawn us into the suburban areas and into the city life where, yeah, you can walk. You don't have to have a car. You can walk down to the grocery store. You can walk to the everything, because they're making these micro communities now where everything's right there. So you don't even have to have a car. You just walk everywhere or ride your bike.
But how do you feel now? What kind of life would you rather have now than the working 8 hours or 12 hours, whatever hours a day that was easier than the farm life? How would you prefer it now?
I would prefer to go back to the farm life, just simply because I don't like the idea that I'm now I'm locked into the system. I'm trapped. I can't get out of it unless I do this thing and trade for money. So it's just like I'm a power tool trying to rent myself out to the highest bidder so that I can get a paycheck that barely covers all the stuff that I want. And it's just the basic stuff. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, there's always this, it only just covers just enough. It's like a blanket that's just too short. And again, it doesn't matter. But when you get back to farm life, you realize that, you know what, I don't need any of that crap. It's all provided right here. I'm the steward. I'm the one that takes care of it all, and it's all up to me. So that same responsibility, or that same loyalty that you give to your job, if you gave that to yourself and to the Lord, holy crow, this world would be a whole different place.
Well, with just the faith of a mustard seed, you could
Yeah.
change huge. You could move mountains, and we know that. So I pray for that. I'll pray for that for you, since that's what you want. And I think that what I believe would be really neat is, at the risk of sounding like a commune, would be to create a community of people with skills. And these people, each having their own gifts and skills, would help with this or with that. And we would be a community that did this all together, and you wouldn't have to be just one family where you had to have 10 kids just to help you with the farm, so that it didn't go up, didn't go to crap because you get too old and you can't handle it anymore. As a community, as people grow older, we would encourage as many young people to stay as possible, or allow more young. You can see more people want to get off the grid than ever. Right now, more people want to get off than ever. Okay, and so if we were to start moving out, there's more of us than them. They can't come after all of us. And so if we were to take skilled people and start making communities outside that are smaller, like you said, there's still small communities that you could walk to and get things from. Like, I'm going to go to Mary's house and get some milk from her cows, and she's going to come over to me and get some chickens or some eggs, whatever. You can still all work together and have the same ideals and plans. And of course, that will go against what the government wants. But the more we do it, and the more people come together to do it, the more we'll have the ability to get it done for the future, for our children and children's children.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's pretty amazing. One of the things that I used to, I live in Utah now, where we don't have lottery, but one of the things I used to daydream about is, if I won the lottery, like won a big amount in the lottery, I always wanted to just start buy a big building and compartmentalize the inside of it into different shops. But instead of charging people and fill it full of all these tools and everything, so that people that wanted to do these projects or learn these projects could come and they could use the equipment, and it would just all be there for whoever wanted to use it. You just kind of sign in or whatever, like a tool crib basically. But yeah, a community like that, where you have all this stuff, kind of like, I don't know, I haven't read too much about the Amish people, but they're kind of like that, where everybody pulls together and technology is taboo.
And that's exactly right. Now, they've got other religious beliefs that I'm not totally in line with, and I know some people from that area of life, and they've told me as much. But basically, what I want people to hear from me, this is not communism. There are people that will say that's what's called communism. Communism is when you share the wealth. No, communism is when a dictator comes in and makes you share your wealth so that there can be certain people at the top with money. This is not, communism is probably a misnomer, because it comes from community and communing and all that stuff. But what we're talking about is free trade. Free trade. Trade is where free trade is how people become good at what they have as gifts. This is how people can really bring out the best of them, when they have a place in a market of free trade. That is where you really see people persevere.
Not only that, but it builds a sense of community among the people that are operating and working in there. It's not a communist ideal where, hey, okay, I want all you guys to come over here, and then I'm going to take everything and then divvy it out where I get the biggest share. It's where Sally needs eggs, but I've got oranges, so we trade. And that's the way it should be, is I have an over surplus.
Right, this is my gift. I'm good. I've got a lot of chickens, and I'm good with taking care of them. And this guy's really good at hunting, so he hunts some of the bigger meat for us. And this gal has cows, and that's actually what a community should be doing in a free trade society. And you would see so much growth in people to be able to bring out their skills. and to use them to their best
And
ability.
what's crazy is before 1911, that's how it used to be. People lived in these communities. Yeah, sure, you might have to go, 20 miles to your nearest neighbor or whatever because of the size of your farm, but these communities would look out for one another and they'd help each other out. And it didn't matter how big or how small that problem was. But 1911, I blame Ford for all of it. I probably shouldn't, but I blame him anyway because he created the assembly line, which caused everybody to want to go work in the factories, which made it easier to make money. But at the same time, that's when everybody became power tools and they're renting themselves out for whatever their skills are. But you don't have to do that. So Ford created the middleman.
You could go to a lot of instances, especially since then, that show this, but it's a slow trickle of technology and comfort, like we just said. And we have to realize that this was not what we were put here for, was to be comfortable. And it says that in the scriptures, that if we're lukewarm, and I know Paul talks about it, if we're lukewarm, we might as well be an unbeliever at that point. Actually, it's almost worse to be a lukewarm Christian. You need to read you need to read the scripture, and you need to do what the scripture says, to live like the scripture says. It doesn't mean you go around telling other people how to live. You just do it yourself. You be a light of Jesus. You walk in the steps of Jesus. People will just see it. They'll just see it when they see you, right? And you make good decisions, and people will watch you prosper, and they'll go, wait a minute, you're doing something different. What do you have that I don't have? And you're gonna
What are you doing that's making you so happy? And then there's always that phrase that says that actions speak louder than words. And that can't be truer because, somebody could be having a crappy ass day or whatever. And you just walk up and you're like, hi, let me help you with that. Or what can I do for you? And it totally changes everything. Or if you just take the initiative and do something for somebody, that transaction right there isn't just on a material level, it's on a spiritual level too, because that person now all of a sudden just comes uplifted. We don't know what other people's struggles are. When we see them struggling, we don't know why they're struggling. It might be obvious, this gal has a flat tire, but she doesn't know how to change it, so you just wander over and change her flat tire for her. Well, you've probably saved her from being late to pick up her kids, or whatever. We don't know what people are going through at that point in time in their lives and why they're freaking out or stressed or whatever. And we've kind of been programmed to believe that if somebody's freaking out, tired, or crying and all that stuff, it's apprehensive. Oh no, I'm scared. I don't want to upset the apple cart. But if you just walk up and go, hi, hey, can I help you? And at that point right there, that transaction becomes way more than just, fixing a tire or whatever. It becomes a spiritual kind of event for both of you.
And a really good spiritual growth would be if the person really had the time to say, I'll show you how to do this yourself while we're here. I know that it might sound like something you don't want to do, but heck, if this ever happened again, you wouldn't need me to stop for you.
Yeah.
And
let me show you how to do it.
And again, and scripture says we'll know them by their fruits. Either way, if somebody is worshiping Satan and that's what they think is best for their life, we'll know them by their fruits. If somebody's worshiping God, then we'll know them by their fruits.
Yeah. And see, that's what the conspiracy and all that stuff comes down to, is knowledge.
Right.
That information is power, and that's what they hold over us, is knowledge is power. And the more you know, the more you're able to pass. But if you hoard it all inside your head and you don't share it with anybody, then that doesn't make you a very good Christian, right? You're just monopolizing, and you're no better than the cabal that's hiding all this information from us.
There's one thing that a lot of Christians forget, and I'm not speaking about any in particular. There's a lot of great Christians, but a lot of Christians forget the Great Commission. We're not just saved. We're not just forgiven. We're not just able to break the chains of slavery and strongholds, but we're given a commission to go out and evangelize. That is what we are told to do. And if we're not doing that, and we're not trying to do it scripturally, then we're not really there yet. And I'm not saying we get there in our lifetime, right? Because here on earth, we'll never get to that point where we become so like Jesus, we can behave as calmly as he does in the storms, but we will be able to weather the storms so much better. Like you said, people will look at you and wonder how you're so happy. They'll look at you and wonder how you're not freaking out when things get really bad or when stuff blows up in your face. I have been told myself that I have handled situations very well in the last few years. People say, I'm surprised how well you're handling the situation. And I say, glory to God alone, because he's brought me more peace and joy than I've ever had in my life just in the last few years, because I surrendered my whole heart and body and soul and willingness to him. I said, please take this. I don't want to do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I don't know how to do it anymore. Please take it. And
Yeah.
I remember the moment I did, and I truly did in that moment surrender everything. Now we take some of these things back, but that's what we have to do, though, is we have to share what I'm doing this now. I share that story with people and tell them Jesus is real, the creation is real, and you will know it because you will feel it in your heart. You will feel it, and you'll watch the Lord change your life. That is, no one could do that but God. I could have never done it myself.
Well, you know what? The truth, I've always said the truth strikes a chord. And that's true, though, because if you hear something that's true, it hits you in a way that you're like, okay, I get that. But if you hear something that's false, it's a false chord. It doesn't vibe right. So you're just like, okay, so maybe I should, you gravitate toward things that are better for you. You gravitate towards things that are, feel better, not necessarily like we were talking about moving to the city and stuff like that. Maybe at the time that did feel better, but now, like for me, it did. I was like, okay, I'm so done with farm life that I don't want anything else to do with it. I don't hunt anymore because why? I can go to the grocery store. I don't need to go kill Bambi because I can go get
Not
a
that that
pound
was
of burger
necessarily
at
your goal, but yeah, okay.
but yeah, you know what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then but now that I think back on it, I'm like, why am I wasting all my time and energy for a system that I'm not getting anything out of? All I'm doing is creating more debt for my kids and creating more anger and animosity that it's just tearing our families apart.
Which is what they want. They want us to be isolated.
Mm-hmm.
They want us to divorce. They want women to be alone without husbands and fathers. And that's not really what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a family unit. We're supposed to have our children in our midst and know what they're up to. We're supposed to let them know that they're not alone and that that they have someone. And even in a community that's a family as well, that the other kids aren't showing them creepy stuff or talking about sex at an age that just shouldn't even be hearing those words. Whereas today, 12-year-olds are creating profiles on pornographic websites.
Yeah, my boys are telling me more stuff than I ever would have known. I'm like, wait, where did you learn this? And what? Like, it's on YouTube. Okay, we're turning that off.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
I've banned
gosh.
YouTube on my. Yes, they're not allowed to watch it unless I'm standing right
Oh,
there.
yeah, to supervise everything. But I read a story one time. I wish I could find it. It was really crazy. So this guy it was in, I think I want to say Africa. So he was in Africa. There was a tribe there, and there was all these kids running around. But he didn't have enough candy for all of them. So he was like, all right, well, he did what the Americans would do and be like, all right, the first one to the tree gets the candy, right? So, of course, all these kids moved in one group, and they all got to the tree at the same time. And then he's like, well, I don't have enough candy for all of you. And what these kids did was they shared it amongst themselves. They didn't have any adult or anybody. They had been taught that. And that's the way it should be, that we should be sharing it. We should be working together. So these kids, they actually worked together to get the candy so that they could divvy it up amongst themselves. And it just blew me away. Yeah, you wouldn't see American kids doing that.
No, they want to give you stories like Lord of the Flies and tell you that's what our kids would do if they had a problem where they had to be on their own.
Yeah.
If you,
So
again,
you-
deserted areas, like deserted islands, and so there's no way you'll ever be able to make it. You're going to have to turn into killers to do this.
Yeah, you got to be kind of weird to live out in the woods by yourself. But I guess in a way you are kind of weird compared to norm, you know? I mean...
That's why you're AbNormie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the normal person wants to live in the suburbs and, keep up with the Joneses and all that stuff. And the only problem is I really don't give a shit what the Joneses are doing.
All right, well, this this is good, and I knew we'd be able to talk on something for quite a while. And I just want to mention one more article that I pulled up because, again, it's just kind of about chickens and kind of interesting. But a big rig carrying chickens crashes and catches on fire. So, again, guys, chickens are bringing death and mayhem, and you just don't want to have any chickens, especially on a farm, because not only will you get salmonella, they will peck you to death.
Good Lord, that's a lot of fried chickens.
That's a chicken fire, fried chickens. I would like to have some of that. Are you guys gonna just get rid of all that, or can we save the carcasses? What's going on here? They're rescuing.
What are you doing?
And then they're rescuing quite a few, and of course somebody's gonna go, "Oh, thank God they rescued the chickens." Okay, let's murder. Let's murder a full-grown fetus. Yay! Woo!
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
All the people that want to protect the animals want to kill babies. Well, not all of them. A lot of them, because I care about animals too.
What's up with that?
It's an interesting dichotomy.
It's something that baffles me completely. Be nice to the animals. You should get an abortion.
I think it's a dilemma, what you call a dilemma. See, I don't know if you knew this, but a dilemma is when you have two issues and you're not sure what to do. So they just go along with both of them, but it's really truly a dilemma. And then I learned that a conundrum is when you have more than two issues that you're not sure what to do. But it's a dilemma, but for them it's not. They're just like, I'm going to go with both of these things. Woo, I can just believe both of these things. And it makes zero. There's no logic in it.
Right. The human mind is amazing, isn't it? I think I'm a walking conundrum because, I got too many issues.
But you see, this is what happens to people who try to do things on their own, who think that they have control of their own lives, who think that they can become God or that they are the ones that are in control. That is what happens. There's not logic. There's not thinking through. There's not caring and sharing. There's not, let me help you off, with your problem here. Let me help you cross the road, or let me help you do that. Or there's none of that. It's, I don't want to help you. And that happened to me too. Oh my gosh, I was the most unfriendly person. I still kind of am. I don't really want to talk to people when I'm out and about, and kind of keep my head down. But unfortunately, that's not how I'm supposed to be. I'm not shining the light of Jesus when I give everybody that look on my face. We all know the resting bee face. That is not the light of Jesus. And I've had to really work on it. It was really funny to people for a long time because I said, I'm working on my face. And they're like, your face seems fine. You're beautiful. I'm like, no, I'm literally working on the face that I have when I'm walking around and trying to smile and trying to
crack that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to crack that mask. I mean, I have a resting A face, not a resting B face. I'm a guy, so it's really hard to get out of that. And you've kind of been beat down and programmed to just keep your eyes 10 feet out in front of you and just walk the line. But you should look up and smile at people once in a while.
If we want to be the light of Jesus and we want to show that we are not an angry, isolated, bitter person, then we do need to do that more often and talk to people more often. And it's something we can all work on and pray for. And speaking of praying, because I'm going to wrap this up, if you don't mind, I'm going to say a quick prayer for us, and then I'm going to end the show. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Okay. Father in heaven, Lord, we look to you for the truth. We look to you for growing discernment and growing wisdom every day, and only you. We know that we can work together to help with truth, but we pray that anyone who comes to us to speak truth in our life knows you as well. And Jesus, we thank you because you died a death we fully deserve. And I love that the Holy Spirit is inside my heart and my mind and my soul, protecting all of that. And that's why we also always pray the full armor over us and over all the listeners. And God, we pray that we would all become more self-sufficient, even in the smallest to the biggest ways. Some of the smallest ways would just be learning to purify water, or buying gold and silver, or maybe we are already building a home or doing some other things, just learning to build like I have been able to do. But these small things matter in the long run. And I pray that we would all become more self-sufficient and not lose power, and that we would bring the power back into all our lives. And Jesus, I pray this in your name. Amen. So I want to say thank you to you, AbNormie, for being on the show with me. I want to thank you for spending the time talking about this with me. And I want to thank you for being a moderator and coming on my show on a regular basis.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I wish I could be there more often. It gets hectic in life. So I'm happy to do it. Anything I can do. And one more thing I would add on that is not only are we wanting to learn, but pass on the things that you've learned,
Absolutely.
Make sure that other people are benefiting from that, so they don't have to spend 40 years trying to figure it out.
Absolutely, because yeah, that you and I, maybe not you, but myself, I started awfully late, but better late than never. But that's okay. I started at 40 years of age, really learning the truth of what I should be doing. Now, I've learned a few years ago what God had for a purpose for me, but I didn't know the steps. And I'm starting to see some real physical steps of what I'm supposed to be doing to make these things happen. So excellent point. And again, I say thank you a lot, but it's because I mean it. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all my viewers more than they even know, because of course, without any of you, I wouldn't be here. And I've said that since I started this YouTube channel. And I'm going to go back to helping bring the power back into your life. Feel that God is still want me to do some deep digging, but it's probably going to be a little less dark from here on out. I think we're going to start shifting a little bit, and it's still going to be a lot of research and a lot of truth, but it's going to be stuff that will help us all, because I don't want anyone to have any kind of fear in their lives for what's going on. I want us to be able to be prepared because of what's going on around us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I hope you'll come on again sooner than a month from now, but I also know that you've got a lot going on in life and things happen. So next time that you come on, I know people enjoyed you last time. I would love to have you again. All right.
I would love to. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well,
I sure appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and thank you again, and good night, everyone else.
Good night, peoples.